17th, 2024 edition of the Urban League Jobs Network Digital Career Success Series, brought to you by the National Urban League. I'm your host, Kenneth L. Johnson, president of the Harlem, New York-based diversity recruitment firm East Coast Executives. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. The Digital Career Success Series, DCSS, is a professional development series that helps members of our Urban League Young Professional chapters and other diverse job seekers develop new skill sets that will enhance their careers through digital platforms such as webinars, Facebook, and Instagram Live. The goal is to provide an opportunity for professional development right from one's computer. If you want more, visit nuljobsnetwork.com. All right, I'm ready for today. This is something we really needed to do. Today's DCSS, Total Rewards Talk, features Dr. Maiysha Clairborne. Shout out to Dr. Nicole Rochester for introducing us. And also Erica Woods. All right, listen, let's just get right into it, ladies. First, I'd like to introduce you guys to Maiysha. Maiysha, listen, I want to share with you that our audience here on the Digital Career Success Series is the absolute best. So with that being said, they're going to be in the chat, dropping where they're from, helping you and supporting you. So please let them learn a little more about you.
Hi, thank you, Ken. It's so great to be here. I just first of all want to thank you for having me. So as you can see on the on the slide here, I'm going to share a little bit more about myself rather than because I know everyone can read. First and foremost, I'm a mom. I am a physician who's transitioned out of clinical medicine. And what I love most is helping people to understand their needs, understand their brain, understand how their behavior affects their brain through communication, and that I help organizations create psychological safety inside of their organizations. I love inclusivity and belonging, and so that is a lot of what I focus on in organizations. Ken and I, as he sort of alluded to, we met because a very good friend of mine, a fellow TEDx speaker,
Yes.
which is another connection that we have,
Yes.
Ken, right? Introduced us from a networking. She was talking with Ken during a networking event, and she heard some connection, and said, you two should meet. And so I immediately reached out before she even created the connection. And the first time we got on the phone, it was like we had known each other for years. And so from that point, we have been building our relationship and friendship. And I'm just grateful to be able to be here today as a physician who has transitioned into helping organizations to be able to contribute to this conversation.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you. Yeah, Dr. Nicole Rochester, part of the CEO Action for Racial Equity Black Communities Council. We met on a Zoom there, and she locked in immediately and said, "You got to meet Maiysha," and she was right. So we jumped on, and we were like friends. But speaking of friends, I want to introduce you guys to Erica Woods. Listen, when I say friend, Erica used to talk me off the ledge. Well, I won't say off the ledge. She used to give me guidance. Erica and I worked at the Urban League of Philadelphia. I guess I should say the Philadelphia Urban League, huh, Erica? That's kind of how they did over there. But we both were consultants there. Erica, please share a little bit about yourself with our audience.
Well, first, I want to say how happy I am to be here. And like Maiysha said, I know you all can read, so I'll tell you a little bit more about me. I am also a parent. 3 boys, and I'm a grandma now of 2 little precious girls, which is so crazy. I've been in HR for almost 30 years, and at every place I've ever worked at, they've said I'm not your typical HR lady, right? My personal professional mission is to help people understand themselves, right? Because if we understand ourselves, then we can live to be our highest and best selves. And so I have done that through coaching and consulting and through my work in human resources with different companies. I've lived and worked all over the world. And as Ken said, we would talk each other off of ledges all the time.
That was a great time, though. It was a great time.
Yes. It was.
You know, usually we have some people from Philly on the show. So if you're here, you know, drop your name and location in the chat. Anybody, everybody, let's do it. Yeah, there we go, right there. All right, so Erica, Maiysha, it sounds like we have a polling question that we'd like to give the audience before we get started. So I'm going to lean on my colleagues at the National Urban League to start that polling question. Audience, please do not hesitate to drop your questions into the Q&A. I know you guys socialize with each other in the chat, but I'm going to need questions because we will get into the Q&A at about 12:45. All right, so the questions are about company culture. I'm going to let you guys jump into that and answer those polling questions. I'm sure the results will come up soon. But Maiysha, you know, this conversation is about total rewards talk. And when we speak about that, it comes down to, you know, selecting benefits. So let's kind of jump into that conversation. What should people be thinking about, considering when they are selecting benefits?
Well, I think there are a couple of things. The first thing though is to understand your own needs. What are the things that you need personally? What the health needs, financial needs. So understanding your own sphere and what it is that you need is, I think, the most important thing. But not only what you need now, thinking a little bit into the future about anticipated needs. So I'm a single mom, so I'm just me and my son, but if I anticipate getting partnered again, or if I didn't have a child and I anticipate that I want a child, like think about some of the things in the future that you might want to take advantage of. If you're thinking you may be fine now, but you're thinking, well, maybe I'd want to engage in mental health services later because you never know the things that could happen. Think about anticipate needs inside of the future. I think that's the first thing. And then the second thing is to, when you're selecting, know everything that's available, because oftentimes there's a lot of fine print and you may not know. You may think about just the things that people talk about all of the time, like the health and the disability and maybe 401k, but there may be other benefits that maybe you're not privy to. So understanding what is the full scope of what's available to you. I think those are two big things to consider when selecting benefits. Erica, I'd love to hear what you have to add to that.
Well, I completely agree with you, right? You have to know, if you don't know what the benefits are, then you're always going to be behind the eight ball, right? And oftentimes there are hidden benefits because companies are concerned about their bottom line, right? So, you know, a lot of times, as an example, I work and consult with a lot of remote companies that have benefits that are attached to longevity and your need for better equipment and all of these things that just aren't published. And every CEO says, don't publish these benefits, right? But it's between, you know, it's $3,000 to get you a chair that's ergonomic, right? So that you're not hurting your back. So you have a fabulous chair like yours, Maiysha, right? I love your chair, right? And it, you know, so knowing and asking those questions, are there any other benefits here? Do you have benefits that might help me? Do you have learning and development? That's a benefit, right? All of those things are important and are a part of total rewards.
You know, it's interesting because I know on one of the conversations we were having, we spoke about people not actually kind of looking through the benefits package. Any advice just regarding that and maybe even how they can kind of streamline that? I remember there was a time when they would hand you this big packet of information, right? But now I think you can go online and kind of tap into a dashboard and things of that nature. Any advice that you have, Erica, regarding just kind of how people should approach it?
Yes. Well, first, talk to your human resources people and like engage with them, right? When they say, oh, well, just read the thing, say, no, you know what? This is complicated to me and I need you to actually walk me through it, right? Walk me through what benefits are good for me. If I'm 25 and have no children, no partner, and I'm not a rock climber, I just live my normal life, I don't need a PPO that's going to cost me maybe $200 a month. An HSA where, you know, my major medical is covered, my hospital is covered, and all of that, that most times is free from the employer because they can afford that piece and not the PPO piece, might be just what you need, right? And you can change it every year. So that's first. First, talk to your HR people. Second, do a little bit of research, just a tiny bit, because there is enough information about each different type of benefits. Know whether your dental plan comes with orthodontia. So if you do have a kid and they do need braces, it doesn't cost you $50,000, it costs you $5,000, right? Know that your 401k has a match and get on that match. That's free money, right? And I can't tell you in my career how many people have gotten angry with me for trying to give them free money in joining a 401k, right? I could talk, this is something I could talk about for days. Maiysha, you have thoughts on this? Because I know you've seen it too.
You know what? I agree 1,000%. You said everything that I wanted to say, like really being willing and not being afraid to ask questions when you don't understand, and having someone walk you through what each benefit means. And I love that you said, like projecting, okay, so I'm a 25-year-old, what might I need that someone who's 40 or 50 might not need, right? And vice versa.
And
Well, I'm
vice
50,
versa.
what might I need that someone who's 25 may not need, or in addition to. So I really appreciate you brought that aspect into the room.
Hey, Dr. Clairborne, while we're here, sometimes people come from an organization that may really value mental wellness and offer opportunities for people to at least continue care. Is there something specific individuals should be looking for if they know that that's the type of help they were receiving at their past employer and they'd like to continue those relationships into their new employee?
One of the things they can look at is they can look at the health insurance, and then they can go back to their provider. If they have the provider at their previous employer, they can ask their mental health professional, or even their physical health professional, their specialist, do you take, I'm switching, do you take this insurance or do you take this benefit? And so I think that is something that people can do to be proactive when they're transitioning.
Excellent. With remote work and hybrid work environments, I know we're seeing a lot of different trends in the total reward space. So what trends are you guys seeing as far as companies and how they're offering benefits?
I'll take that one to start,
Eric,
if you don't mind,
so
Maiysha.
Eric, I
No,
know,
that's all right. Yeah.
so you work with a variety of organizations, so you probably get a firsthand look at kind of, oh, this is what's offered here versus what's offered somewhere else. So yeah, let's kind of drill down on that a little.
Absolutely. Well, Ken, you hit the nail on the head when you said mental and emotional health services, right? And wellness services. One of the things HumanTech does is help people to get mindful so that they are bringing that mindfulness into their work, right? And when you bring it into your work, you bring it into your whole life. And there are so many organizations now that are understanding that if they're not looking at the whole person, then they're missing a lot. And that what they're missing cuts down on their productivity, which is their bottom line, right? So a lot of what we're seeing, what I've been seeing a lot is making sure that there's corporate wellness, which may include yoga or may include, one client I helped get 30-minute massages every other Friday as an enticement to get people back in the office, right? And those things are, these are the things that people want. It's beyond healthcare, dental care, and a retirement plan, right? It's beyond, it's making sure that my entire being is taken care of. College, right? L&D for college, these kinds of things, getting for advanced degrees. And then the time, right? Time is the biggest benefit that companies are giving people now. Maiysha, what do you think?
Yes, absolutely. And another thing that I think that is beginning to be added more is services like coaching.
Yeah.
I am seeing that more and more, and especially I'm seeing it in the healthcare space, because that's a lot of where I do my consulting, is that there are allowances for life coaching, leadership coaching, burnout coaching, you name it, organizations are starting to add that as a benefit, which I think is extremely valuable given the fact that burnout is such a high thing. And the thing that I saw when I was in clinical practice is the benefit of having HSAs or flexible spending. It wasn't as widely used when it's been a few years since I've been in clinical practice. And I'm seeing the trend more and more to attaching those on and to expanding healthcare specifically benefits to things like integrative medicine, integrative practices, functional medicine practices, because we know that the trend of what people want is to that wellness space. And so adding those types of the types of programs that allow for wellness, mental health, burnout, leadership expansion, so that you can develop your teams, from a leadership standpoint, so that people can be developed within their environment.
Absolutely. Yeah, I see that nonstop. A lot of my work happens in the tech industry, and I can't tell you how much burnout coaching I have done, right? Because we've in one of the last couple of years, several of the companies I worked with lost between 50 to 100 engineers, and not just lost them to other companies, lost them to like, I'm going to go build a farm in the middle of nowhere. Like they want nothing to do with technology. Right. We're seeing that so much in so many fields. Right. So yeah, definitely.
I'm glad we're having that conversation because the next Digital Career Success Series is Boundaries for Balance, but we have executive and life coach Nicole Smith on that show. And this is the work she does, right? She's really coaching people on kind of how to manage and also prioritize themselves. So I think with that being said, that all of this information is great. All right, listen. So let me put my recruiter hat on for a second. Well, I never really take it off. I'm actually working now. I'm at a conference. So people usually see the black box sound behind me, but I'm at a conference and I just came off a panel, and this was something that we spoke about here. So as we understand and leverage benefits, I've noticed that in our recruitment cycle, once we get to offer stage, we really start to have some very deep benefit questions because people are kind of leveraging benefits and salary and kind of figuring out what works best for them in their particular situation. Maiysha, you spoke about it, right? Maybe I don't need extensive healthcare if my partner or husband or whoever has a great plan that includes the family, and I can leverage that for salary. So how do people gain a better understanding of how they may want to leverage benefits?
I think we've talked a lot about how they gain that understanding. What I would like to say, though, is to have people to understand that they can negotiate those benefits. I think there's a conditioning to take what you can get, and for people to understand that ask for more. You can ask for more. Ask for more than you think you can get, even. Because oftentimes we think, well, I want this, but I only think I can get this, so I'm just going to ask for this. Right. So I say, and this is when I coach my clients, especially when I'm coaching physicians and they're doing their career transition, I say, what is it an ideal world? What all would you want? And ask for that, because you never know. I think it's what Erica said earlier, that they don't publish certain things. Well, they're not going to freely say, well, you can have all of this. You have to ask for it, and you'd be surprised at what the organization will say yes to if you ask.
Hey, Erica, before I bring you in, let me just share with Dr. Clairborne that that's the best tip I've ever heard in my life. Ask for more. Like that's the one. That's it right there. What's your negotiation? More. I love it. I love it. Now you see why we get on the phone and we speak for like an hour, because I keep asking for more, like more information. She keeps asking for more information. So it's the same approach to benefits. Listen, it's the Urban League Jobs Network Digital Career Success Series. We're here with Dr. Maiysha Clairborne and Erica Woods. Erica, tap in. Let us know what we need to do to leverage benefits.
Look, that's the thing. Maiysha laid it plain, right? And I'd say the same thing. And I say the same thing to employees when I'm interviewing them. If I'm doing a final interview with an employee and they're asking like, what else do you want? What else do you need? I ask them, what's your more, right? Do you need coaching, right? Because we can bake that into your salary, or we can pay your coach directly as a company. Do you need, tell me what it is you need. And I can't tell you from the HR side how many people I have had in tears when I'm saying these things to them, because nobody asked them. I need to know what you need. I do that with salary too. I'm not going to tell you what a base salary is. Tell me what you need, and I'll tell you if we can get you there, and I'll tell you how we can get you there, right? Ask for what you need. And as Maiysha just said, always ask for more. Know what your baseline is. I say this to all my coaching clients. I say this to all my friends. I've said this to my children, right? Know what your baseline is, and then ask for double of that. Because the only thing they can tell you is no, but they're going to meet you, and they're probably going to be able to meet you at your baseline or pretty close to it. And you may be surprised at what they can give you. So yeah, Maiysha, everything you said.
And listen, and based on our audience, right? And I don't know the demographics. I'm sure Corey O'Donnell and his team have this information, but I think we kind of lean heavy on the female side. But it's been proven, and it's been played out through the data, that women often don't ask for more. So I think it's really important for our audience to hear you guys share that that's a part of the game plan.
Absolutely. Women and people of color,
Yes.
and people who are in the LGBTQIA plus community, and veterans don't ask for more, right? Like over and over and over, we see it. I mentor veterans who are transitioning into their, and coach them into their transition. And when I say to them, ask for more, they're like, oh, but I don't have, no. Work is a negotiation. Let me lay this I'm gonna drop a little bit of wisdom on you right now, real quick, right? Work is a negotiation. They are bringing you in because you have a skill they need. Get yours, period. You are giving more to them than they are giving you always. Always remember that when you walk in, the first day you walk in, even when you're training, you are giving more to them than they are giving to you. So get yours.
So, Dr. Clairborne, is that kind of an imposter syndrome thing? Like, talk to me about what that is.
It is a conditioning. I think there's a historical conditioning, there's industry conditioning. I'm going to add to what Erica said. You know, people who live with disabilities, they're another group that don't ask. I was speaking with a physician who she has an invisible disability. She's deaf, partially deaf, and she was hesitant to ask for the accommodations that she needed because of the stigma associated with it. And so when we stigmatize things, and when we condition, especially marginalized communities, not to ask, that's what happens. And that's the conversation that gets passed down generation to generation to generation until it becomes normalized. So it is a conditioning. And that creates, I guess, what you mentioned earlier, that sort of imposter experience. But for the most part, I think it's just conditioning.
Gotcha. All right. So we spoke about what people should do as far as, their benefits are concerned, and kind of really just said, just ask more and ask questions and meet with your HR people and things of that nature. But what are you advising against when selecting benefits? What are the things that we probably want to avoid doing when having the benefits conversation? Anything stick out?
Who do you want to hear from first?
I'm going to give it to you, Erica.
Let's
Okay.
go. Yeah.
So the first thing is, especially lately, right, with everything that's gone on in the corporate world, a lot of companies are tiering their benefits, right? So you have a PPO, and then, either an EPO or an HMO, and then, right? And that's designed as a cost savings, right? If you don't need a PPO, don't spend the money. Get that money somewhere else, right? Use the HMO, right? Do what Maiysha said. Check with your provider, make sure they accept that HMO, make sure they accept that EPO, make sure they accept that HSA. Don't over FSA yourself, right? That's a big one. It's a big one that I see people doing, right? They use that flexible, they think, oh, I'm going to add the max to that flexible spending account so that I can bring my taxes down a drop. But then at the end of the year, they're buying massage tables to try to use that money, right? And you ain't never gonna use massage table. Now, come on. Right. So, right. Like, you know, really, really budget in the same way that you would budget for other things, right? Budget for your FSA, for your DCA, your dependent care, right? Maximize your 401k, right? And if you are in this audience and you're in your 50s or older, use that extra, do that. They give you you know, that you can go, I think it's now 7,000 above the cap, right? Especially if you have a match, because that money is going to be matched. So that 7,000 becomes 9,000 with the, you know, with just the employer's contribution can become 10 and 12 every year. Take all the free money, right? Those things, take every single opportunity you can to really know your benefits, know what you're looking at, know what you actually need, know what you don't need.
Absolutely.
So we just had a conversation about these gaming chairs and how comfortable they are, but then Eric is telling us not to buy massage tables at the end of the year. I'm trying to figure out where we're headed here, Dr.
Okay, so
Clairborne.
wait a minute now. So let the company buy you a gaming chair. So that's a separate benefit. Let them buy you that gaming chair, because those gaming chairs are awesome. I sit in my son's whenever I'm at his house, and I'm just like, man, yeah, you know. My chair is pretty great though. My chair is perfect for me, but it's one of those the Herman Miller or whatever, like super fancies, right?
Nice.
That one of my companies bought for me, right? That was a benefit, right?
Nice.
Right, but like that's exactly it. If you can get a gaming chair and you can use an HMO, then you've balanced.
That's right.
That's it. Right?
Love it.
Maiysha, what do you see? Because you see this on the other side, or at least you did when you were working in medicine. And I know with your clients, I'm sure it comes up, because I know it comes up with mine, where they're like, oh, I'm so frustrated with this healthcare thing and blah, 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 blah. And right, it's the thing that's top of mind. What do you see that people could have avoided, pitfalls that they've taken?
I think it's really exactly what you said. Don't overcommitting, over paying when they don't need to. And I think, you know, there's the set it and forget it, like, oh, I got the I got the benefits, right? I would say don't set it and forget it. Review your benefits regularly, because one of the things that happens, this is one of the things that I used to see, is at the end of the year, there's two things that happen. At the beginning of the year, they come in and they could have used their FSA, but I told them last year, oh, when your enrollment comes up, get your FSA, get your flexible spending, get your HSA. But they forget, they just sort of set it and forget it, right? Yeah. And I recommend reviewing regularly your benefits to make sure that you're remembering to leverage all the ones that you have, because otherwise, you know, conversations disappear.
Absolutely.
Yes. The other thing I would say is don't settle. Yeah, I think it's sort of like the piece around negotiation. Don't just settle for, oh, okay, this is all I can get. So that's just the continuing to ask for more. It's just the piggyback on continuing to ask for more. Push back if they say, well, we can't give you this. You might say, well, what can you give me?
Right.
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 What
Exactly.
can you do? Yeah, that's the question to ask, rather than settling for the no. That's a negotiation tactic.
Exactly. Yes. Yep. Yep. The no is always a full sentence, but it's also an opening in a conversation.
Ooh,
it doesn't have to be the thing that closes the conversation, right? I tell my clients that all the time. Well, he said no, and I'm like, great. Then your next question is, okay, well, what can we do?
That's right.
Right? What can we do? How are we going to get there, right? And from the HR lady, please don't be that guy who sees the 17 emails about renewing your FSA and ignores them, and then 3 days after the deadline says, oh, but I want to add some money to my FSA. Don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. Pay attention. These benefits are for you, right? They're for you. And I know because it can be so convoluted. The system is set up to be convoluted. I know that. I counsel friends, I counsel my elder family members. I do all kinds of helping people get through this stuff because it's very confusing, right? And sometimes we use that to have a freeze reaction, right? Our systems go, it's too confusing, I can't deal with this, I'm just going to leave it alone, right? Get with people who can help you, right? And do it ahead of time because these benefits are really designed to help you.
All
That's
right.
the
You know,
bottom line.
Go ahead,
Yes.
Dr. Clairborne.
Yeah, there's something that you said that brought something up that I want to mention. Earlier in our conversation, you talked about we can't imagine how many people refuse money, right? And so that brought up for me, don't let your beliefs get in the way of good benefits. Okay. Because sometimes there are our own self-beliefs about what we deserve or what we can get, or the suspicion about the organization or whatever it may be, right? Our own beliefs can get in the way of actually getting good benefits. So don't let that happen either.
Yeah, I have a tiny little story about that. I worked in an organization that not only did a 6% match on the 401k, they also did between 2 and 4% at the end of the year, depending on profits, which is right. And so my 401k advisors would reach out and they go, well, we've got, these 8 people who aren't signed up for the plan and we want to get them in so we can give them this free money. And inevitably, all of those people would fight with me about getting that money. And I would explain it to them. I'd be like, look, well, no, and they all had such stories and such traumas around those stories, right? That they couldn't get there. And we had to reabsorb money that should have gone to those employees, right? And one in particular who, I mean, she told me she would call the police on me if I made her sign these documents, that I was coercing her. And I'm like, I'm trying to get you to take free money. I'm just trying to help you, right? But yeah, so to your point, I have seen that for years and years and years and years in my work, and nothing makes me sadder.
All right, so help me out here. Of course, we know that this will be the premier resource for this conversation, right? It will be the Urban League Jobs Network Digital Career Success Series with Erica Woods and Maiysha Clairborne. But before this is released, people are going to need resources and they're going to want to know where they can go to get just general questions asked. And maybe, of course, Erica, as you mentioned, go to HR, but are there any websites or any places where people can kind of find information?
Yeah, that one to you, Erica.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, right? There are organizations in most cities that will help you with these kinds of things, right? Typically, unfortunately, oh my goodness, my brain has gone blank on what it's called, but the exchange, the healthcare exchange is so overloaded that they can't find a way to hire people who can do the work to actually help, right? It's just too overloaded and not overloaded in a way that's helpful. You can always reach out to me on LinkedIn, always, right? I'm on there all the time. I will respond to any questions. I will always help people because I can't help myself. I just can't help myself, right? I don't like to see anybody not get help. There are, interestingly enough, organizations like the AARP will help anybody with their benefits. AAA will help anybody with benefits questions, right? So there are big organizations that are designed to make sure, because they're always trying to make money, right? So they're going to help you to understand these things with the hope that you will remember them and come back to them when you need them, right? Go ahead. As for smaller organizations, that's hard.
It's interesting as well, because I think on some levels, people probably can use their Urban League affiliate. Like we had you sitting there in-house, able to answer questions for individuals that recently received a job through, Workforce. And then they had questions and we're like, oh, hold on, Erica's here. Let us have Erica speak to them. So don't hesitate to at least see if your affiliate and or people within their professional orgs may have that experience and background where you can tap into that network. We're here to help no matter what. And with that being said, I think maybe people can leverage the affiliates.
I think that's a great idea. I loved doing that. Ken, I remember you walking people over to my desk.
Yes, yes. I'm like, I don't have that answer, but I know who does, right?
Yep.
That's the
That
best
works.
thing.
All right, so let's move to the next slide. Employer advice. Maiysha, what advice do you give employers? I mean, you sat kind of on the other side of this thing and probably shook your head about some of the information that people were coming in with or without, and maybe you had some advice for how employers should provide benefits.
Yeah, I mean, so the first thing I'll be general and say, consider adding these options that we've talked about earlier, adding options for like flexible spendings and HSA. I know it's not quite universal yet, but these are options that are very helpful in expanding what's accessible to your employees. Consider adding expanded mental health, personal development benefits, leadership development benefits. Like these are things that, we are currently in a workforce crisis. And if you want to know what your workforce needs, you should ask them. You should ask your current employees what would make a difference if this benefit was present. I think also when we think about that, we want to make sure we're building equity into the benefits offering. So I'm a big person in equity, inclusion, diversity, and belonging, right? So build equitability into your benefits offerings and create a culture of transparency. And we've talked about the fact that, there can be hidden benefits, but when you begin to create a culture of transparency and you expand the offerings, you create an environment where your people want to stay. You create an environment that feels inclusive and that where people belong and they want to make your place a career home. Benefits will be one of the things that make people stay in their jobs. So that's one of the things that I will say, the advice that I would give to employers and leaders in organizations that have that role.
Eric, as you sit in other organizations and administer their benefit plans, what advice are you giving them in regards to the decisions they're making?
The first thing I say to my CEOs is please don't do it because you think everybody else is doing it. Do what's authentic to the culture of your organization, right? I had, one CEO who was like, yeah, I went to this conference and all these CEOs were talking about yoga in the offices, right? And I'm like, okay, you have a remote workforce. And yes, we can do corporate wellness in that way, but you also have a group of people who, like, if you introduce yoga to them, they're all going to quit, right? Like that's not in your culture. What are you doing? Well, but they're doing it. I'm like, yeah, but what does your culture need? Your culture, I'm going to tell you because I know you people, right? Your culture wants wine, they want a wine and cheese happy hour in person quarterly, right? That's their wellness time together, right? You've got 64 people, 52 of them are wine connoisseurs.
Mm.
It's ridiculous, right? That is going to be your yoga class. Get them all in the same city quarterly and let them have a night of wine and cheese and chatting, right? And then the next morning, get them a good breakfast, take them on a nature hike. That is what's going to grow your group, right? Do things that are authentic, right? As Maiysha said, we're in a crisis. This whole system, it's a hot mess, right? And Maiysha and I see it all day, every day, right?
Right.
There's a lot going on, and if employers aren't figuring out how to bring authenticity into it, right? Authenticity includes diversity and inclusion and all of the things that are related to that, parity, equity, et cetera, right? If we're not figuring all of that out in ways that are authentic to what our organization is about, we're losing people. So yeah, that's my big advice to them.
Wow, I love it. I love it. we're getting ready to jump into the Q&A segment of the program, but I'd like for us to take a look at the poll results again. Can we bring those back up, Corey? Is there anything that Erica and Maiysha, can you see that?
Yes.
We can.
Anything that catches your attention?
Wow, we've got a lot of hybrid people.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So with that being said, with that amount of hybrid people, should your benefits change? Let's say you were on you weren't working hybrid, and then maybe after the pandemic that was offered, or maybe recently it was offered to you. How should you look at your benefits differently in that scenario?
Which one of us? Maiysha, you want to take it first? You want me to take it?
You go ahead. You can take it first.
Me?
Yes.
Okay.
Sure. I'm over here in the Q&A looking at the question.
All right, cool.
Transparently, I was like about to type an answer.
Listen,
I heard the question, but I didn't hear the question.
So after Erica comes out of this, we're going to you for Q&A, the first Q&A. I just want you.
I know. I got you. I'm like all up in the Q&A here, so I'm like, what?
And I'm studying this because it's odd. I'm used to seeing it be pretty much a third, and a third. So seeing 68% is hybrid. Look, whenever a CEO comes to me and says, I've let everybody be remote, I'm sick of remote, and everybody's got to come into the office at least 2 days a week, right? Like that's their story. I say, great. Then you're paying for their meals when they walk in the door. You're paying for their cup of coffee in the morning, right? You're paying for their commuter costs. And I live in Los Angeles, so commuter costs, gas is $6 a gallon here at least, right? And if you are going to do that, you're paying them for the things you haven't been paying them for, especially if you hired them during the pandemic and they expected to stay remote, right? You're not paying them to come into your office. That's not a benefit for them. That's a benefit for you. Yeah. So cover it, right? And they go, well, that'll up me. And I'm like, yes, but the productivity you had with all of them being remote for the last couple of years, you can afford it. Right.
Gotcha.
Right. So it's that balance out of like these things. And again, remember, as I said, from the moment you walk in the door, you are giving them more than they are giving you. Right. And your CEOs need to know that if they don't see you as their highest, most substantial asset, then there's a mismatch there. Right. So all the CEOs on the call, that 14%. Right, who are executives and managers, value your people, treat them like you value them, right? That's the bottom line. All right, Maiysha, over to you with questions.
Listen, I learned something just now because I didn't know that employers would cover the first meal when of course I haven't been employed in a very long time, but so I wouldn't know that information. But yeah, that is key to know.
Okay.
It comes back to knowing what you can ask for and then asking for more than that.
Yes.
I'm just going to share with you that you're very much self-employed. You're doing your thing. So like you may not be employed, but you're very much self-employed. I see the work you're doing out here. Amazing work. All right, we're going to jump into the Q&A, Maiysha. Since you are our Q&A consultant today, let's have you pick the question you'd like to drop in on.
I'll start with this first one that I see here, which is with regard to short-term disability and mental health diagnosis. Can the disability department request details on session notes? So I'll answer and then I'll pass to Erica for any corrections or additions. So generally, when you're applying for short-term disability or mental health disability, there has to be an assessment. And there has to be a thorough assessment by a mental health professional or physician. So there's a report that's written that is then sent to the organization to determine eligibility for such. But when we're talking about mental health, like counseling and things of that nature, I don't believe they cannot request the specifics of those session notes. That is held in confidence by HIPAA. And that includes this type of atmosphere.
Agreed.
Right.
Full stop. Agreed.
Yeah.
All right, so I see the question here. Will this recording be shared with participants after the webinar? We share this and all of the Digital Career Success series recordings on the Urban League Jobs Network YouTube channel. So please, probably about 4 or 5 days after this recording, you'll be able to find this over there at the Urban League Jobs Network on YouTube. So tap in with us there. All right, let's go to the question. Are there benefits we can tap into that help with education, college costs for children?
Absolutely. There are a whole bunch of them, and you can ask your employer. I haven't put this on for a little while, mostly because I've been working in tech and globally remote. But I think it's called it's either 429 or 729. It's 3 numbers ending in 29. And employers can add it as a benefit, and it acts like a 401k. They can do a match to it. They can do additions at one of my employers years ago used to do an anniversary addition to a child's college fund, right? So, you know, on your anniversary, be happy anniversary, we added $500 to your child's college fund. And then the longer you were with the company, the more that increased. So at 5 years, it was $1,500, you know what I mean? So things like that. There are lots of benefits, and you can also just ask, right, to have a part of your salary. You can ask for $500 extra a month that you then put into a fund for your child's college, right? So yes, definitely goes into ask for what you want.
All right, I'm looking at this question here. I think this is really interesting. I can't wait to hear the answer, but my job dental benefits are awful. I'm not going to use the company names here. Every year we ask for them to look at other options, but they have not switched. Is there ever an option for employees to have their input considered for selecting benefits? And if so, who in the company would we speak to?
Oh, this is such a hard one. I mean, I'll take this one. Maiysha, relax. So the challenge is sometimes the employer may want to switch to Delta Dental, but Delta Dental won't allow it, right? So sometimes it's not HR, it's not your company, it's the insurers. Right? There's a negotiation that happens, and some insurers won't even quote to certain companies. So my guess, if your HR person is worth their weight in salt, is that they have heard you, they have gone to, to other providers, and those providers have not quoted them, right? They've tried to get their brokers to quote from other providers, and they're doing the best they can, right? It's a hard thing, right? Because different providers will at times decide to quote for reasons that seem really random, even to HR people who've been doing it for a long time. And brokers will go and say, we've tried and this is all we could get you. So I would say keep beating that drum, right? And the question you want to ask is, why aren't we getting quotes from these people? Or are those quotes too high, right? Because that's the other thing, is these other providers might be quoting, but where the provider you have is quoting you $15 a person, this other provider is coming to your company and saying, sure, we'll insure you, but it'll cost you $65 a person, right? And so there are so many reasons, and I'm not going to bore you with all of them, because I could put you to sleep telling you all the reasons, right? But there are a ton of reasons why your company maybe hasn't switched. But to you, anonymous attendee, I am going to say, keep beating that drum and keep asking for it, and start asking for the why, because and say, be honest with me. If it's too expensive, great. Now I understand. If it's too this, if they won't quote us, great. I heard that these are things that happen on a webinar I went to the other day, right? Find out the reasons why, so at least you know, right? And then you can start making some choices around that, whether it's FSA, whether it's, getting private dental, whatever that is.
Yeah, and I think as you start to have these conversations, and I don't know, it could be a BRG that you could be at your business resource group speaking about this being a challenge that you're having, and you may realize that other people are having a similar challenge and or have similar interests, right? And then there's sometimes numbers can be impactful. And if you start to align with others, and maybe the drum beat that Erica was speaking about gets a little louder,
Mm-hmm.
and then people have to start considering it as something that's worthy of their interests, worthy of them looking into. So find ways to find allies in this challenge or battle that you're facing.
Absolutely.
Yes.
All right, so let's go to another question real quick. Many companies are incorporating professional development opportunities into their benefit packages. However, some of these programs often lack in some areas. How do you effectively advocate for yourself to pursue targeted professional development courses or attend conferences that, while not directly tied to your current job or industry, are in alignment with your personal interests and passions? And I like to say that I've been doing this show for 4 years, and that may be the best written question I've seen. That was amazing.
It's a great question. And so I would love to share about, how I've had clients who have done this. And so one of the things that you can do, especially if there's targeted professional development that may be a course or maybe a coach that you want to pursue, you can ask the person if they'd be willing to provide some type of letter or overview of the program, and let them know. If you're having a conversation with them, let them know this is what is allowed, so they can link what their program is to what is actually in alignment with the current job or the industry. So as an example, I've done a lot of communication coaching and deep work, therapeutic work with physicians, and a lot of that is leadership oriented. And so sometimes, in order to get their coaching covered, I would write a letter to let them know, this is the work I'm doing. This is the way it improves leadership, and this is the amount of time, this is the cost. And I have had several clients get their coaching covered just from writing a letter. So they're being able to link the value of the program that you want to take that may be aligned with your personal interest or passion to the values of the organization is key. And if you can do that, then you can advocate. You can go to your HR department, or maybe it's your direct supervisor, and see how you can get them covered.
I love it. Erica, I'm trying to roll through some of these questions. Do we need separate HSA accounts for husband and wife?
Depends on the company. Because some companies, the way they write the plan, you can have a spouse card, and other companies, the way they write the plan, they write them as individuals. And so, yes, right. That depends on the company, not on the insurer.
So I'm looking at this, negotiating your hours and days. That's probably your direct hiring manager, and kind of going there with that, I would imagine. All right,
Yes.
excellent.
Yes.
Hello and thank you. If you're already working, when can you revisit conversations and negotiations? Review?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Performance review time.
Yeah, performance reviews, and then also contract renegotiation when contracts
Exactly.
come back around.
Excellent. All right. If you find out you are underpaid, how do you approach the decision without risking your job?
Spreadsheet. Create a spreadsheet that has fair market value for your job, period. Okay, and then say, this is what I've discovered, right? I'd like to discuss how do we have this conversation? It should not risk your job.
Yes.
Talking about money
Right.
should never risk your job, ever.
Should not. And there are so many resources out now where you can kind of really get an understanding of what the market rate is in your particular city with your years of experience. I'm not saying all of it's completely accurate, but it'll give you a range that's probably pretty much online. So with that being said, I'd like to ask the two of you to offer closing remarks to our audience. We'll start. I guess we'll start with you, Erica. Any closing remarks?
So I'm so grateful to have been here. Thank you all for your time and your energy and for listening, right? do yourselves a massive favor and get to understand your benefits. Understand them well enough to be able to explain them to your friends and family, right? Reach out. I can help you with that, right? But understand your benefits. They are going to help you. They are going to help grow you. They're going to do all of the things. There's so much I could say here, but I'll stop in the interest of time. Maiysha, take it away.
I'll leave you with the asking. I can't say it enough. Ask for what you want. Ask for more than what you want. Don't be afraid to negotiate. And for leaders, this is your opportunity. Expanding upon your benefits is your opportunity to have your employee satisfaction go up and wellness go up, and to be able to solve some of the workforce issues.
You know I'm not letting you off the hook. You got to give them that TEDx talk title and where they can find it.
Oh, yes, absolutely. The TEDx talk is called The Perspective You May Be Missing. If you go to my website, it's actually on the first page of the website, mindremappingacademy.com. So you can go right there to the website and watch the talk right there.
You know, Corey and the team are ready because they have your contact information queued up and ready to go. So if you want to get in touch with Maiysha Clairborne, Dr. Maiysha Clairborne, you can check her out here. Please go to that slide. Thank you. I'd appreciate it. All right. Yeah, there we go. You can go to Dr. Clairborne there. That's all of her information. Trust me, I know she's on LinkedIn because I tap in every now and then and just bother her and ask her a bunch of questions. And if you want to stay connected with the work of Erica Woods, you used to be able to visit her office at 215 South Broad Street and just walk in there and hang out with her for a couple hours. But you no longer can do that. But if you do want to tap in, she already offered you the opportunity to connect with her on LinkedIn and said she would answer questions. So that's a big offer in itself. You know, I'd like to offer the same. I'm Kenneth L. Johnson. Please stay connected. You can just visit eastcoastexecutives.com and tap in with me there. LinkedIn, it's like my home. I'm always there. Listen, we do this again. This is crazy. May 1st, I know we spoke a lot about coaching and we spoke about kind of, just setting up a workplace that's right for you. And we got Nicole Smith, Boundaries for Balance, May 1st. Executive and life coach Nicole Smith from Smitten. So I'm excited about her being on the 1st. I want to thank our two guests that showed up today in a big way for a conversation that ended up being amazing. Thank you, Erica. Thank you, Dr. Maiysha Clairborne, just for showing up. I really appreciate both of you, and I know you both know that. So I'd also like to thank the team at the National Urban League for making this seamless. Corey and team were great today. I'd like to thank Wanda Jackson for believing and letting this happen every other week. And I'd like to thank the audience for just showing up and asking great questions. Everyone was amazing today. We will do it again May 1st. Executive and life coach Nicole Smith, Boundaries for Balance. I'll see you all then.